Welcome to Limited Time Only.
I'm Esther.
And I'm Susie.
Limited Time Only is the podcast for anyone who feels there aren't enough hours in their life.
And each week there's a different topic for you to get your ears around.
Featuring chat, comedy sketches and interviews with interesting people.
Limited Time Only is a pick-me-up in podcast form.
The special guest later in the episode is Lindsay Mack. This week it's time for Soul Searching.
I do notice when we do this podcast that I laugh like Muttley. There's often like a...
Me too.
like that kind of laugh going on, and I'm like, my God, I've not smoked for 20 years. Well, apart from that casual vape I had at Alison Hammond's birthday party, but that was joyous. I bloody loved it.
Casual vape.
Casual vaping on a watermelon vape. Ha.
Actually, I did actually do a vape this morning.
Did you? Oh my
Yes.
God, what's happening to us in our 40s?
Because I think
we'll be dead soon. Let's just do it all. Jack me up.
That's my jack me up. I think I was given a vape on the night of a casual vape on the night of Alison Hammond's party.
Oh yes.
And I've kept it ever since. And every so often, I just find it at my bedside table and take it out and give it a puff.
Did Sarah give you that? Is it a watermelon one?
Yeah,
oh, it was Sarah
I think
gave
it was
it to you. I'm sure she did.
Or I stole it. I can't. One or the
No,
other.
I don't think you stole it. I'm sure she said, I'm not taking this back to the Isle of Man with me, and she gave it to you because she bought me mine. It was joyous. I just remember going outside and having a little. I mean, because I don't vape ever, and it was only the second time I'd ever even tried a vape, and I'd said to Sarah, because I don't smoke, I haven't smoked for years, but I did smoke at Alison Hammond's birthday party the year before. Alison Hammond.
Let's just mention her again.
Let's just mention her again. Alison Hammond is the greatest person on the planet. She is everywhere, and she should be.
She doesn't encourage us to vape, by the way.
No, she doesn't. Not at all. But we went to her birthday party the year before, and I had loads of roll-ups off Graham, which was absolute heaven, because I used to feel so much guilt when I smoked, but because it's like a once in a year thing. But then when we went to Alison's party the next year, I said to Sarah, should we get some fags? And she said, no, I'll get you a vape. And she bought me this, I mean, I love a bit of coral, and she bought me a coral watermelon vape, and every so often we go outside and I had no guilt about it whatsoever.
No, because it was pretty.
It was pretty, really pretty, and it took me back to being a baby, because it's like sucking on a booby.
That's the thing. This is why young people are in trouble.
Yes.
Right,
they want their mummies.
Give me a second. I'm echoing all over the shop. Let me just grab something.
You're not going to start vaping, are you? She's gone. Listeners, I think she's gone for a big old chug on the vape.
I'll try that. Oh, that does sound a bit better.
I thought you'd gone to get a vape.
Well, I think that's my I think I can't. I think it's affected my breathing.
Oh, right.
It's either that or the stress.
Well, you are moving in 4 days.
Oh, fuck.
Let's not talk about it.
Well, I was actually talking this morning about anxiety, because I think I don't know. I mean, I don't. Okay. I think I've got a bit neurodiverse, Esther.
You've gone a bit I've caught this neurodiverse thing that's going around.
I've gone a bit because I think there's something going on with my hearing.
Right.
At the moment, I don't think I'm going deaf. I can still hear a lot of stuff, but loud noises really affect me. I was sat next to a woman the other day we were having dinner. She was sat next to me, a lovely girl, a friend, and she laughed, and it was quite loud, and it literally made my eardrum explode.
Oh, really? Was it me? You can tell me, because I do laugh.
No, it wasn't you. But I sort of had to. I just stopped for a minute, and I just couldn't. I was like, what the actual just happened?
Yeah.
Because that really hurt. And sometimes my son, when he hurts himself, probably not at school, probably just when it's me, will scream. So you think he's, I don't know, broken his leg, but he's just stubbed his toe or something. His scream was making my eardrums ring as well, and I couldn't help him. I had to put my hands over my ears.
Do you find that your brain feels like it's shaking? Because that's what happens to me if something's very high pitched. I feel like my brain wobbles. It's a really weird sensation.
Are you swinging your head from side to side? Stop.
I've heard things that are so high pitched that my brain sort of goes, ah! It feels like my brain shakes.
It's like a vibration. It's vibration, isn't it? And the other day I was in a room, it was a baby shower, and the room wasn't particularly echoey. It was just quite dense. I don't know if I've probably told you this already, but the noise level was such that it suddenly made me incredibly stressed. Like, my heart started thumping, and I said to my friend, I've got to get out of here. I just had to get out of there right that minute. It was quite sudden, and it's happened a few times, and I'm like, what's going on with me and sound right now?
It's overwhelm, I think. Like, I can't cope with things when I've got too much going on in my head and there's too many tabs open. But also, you saying you've gone a bit neurodiverse for the moment, it's been proven that people who aren't neurodiverse, a little bit neurodiverse, when you get to our age, the hormones are fluctuating more, and it exacerbates those symptoms that you may have not really considered before. So I am having... I heard Stacey Solomon say this the other day, and I thought, oh my God, this is a hard relate. I've never been someone that's changed that much between how I am across the month. I might have a snappy day, but the last maybe year, she said this. She went, first week of my cycle, I'm fine. Second week, I'm the nicest person you'll ever meet, and I really like my husband. Third week, I'm devil incarnate, and I'll just cry all day. And I'm finding that I'm a bit like that. The few days before I menstruate, ladies and gentlemen, there you go, boys. My poor friend Andy, whenever we meet up with our friend Andy, we just all the girls talk about periods, and you can just see the life drain out of him. Anyway, I digress because I'm probably ADHD. But I find that I get really quite shirty before my period, but also I have about a week before, I literally can't think of the next thing to do. I literally can't put one foot in front of the other. I can't string a sentence together. I can't. It's really debilitating, and I'll go, I know I just need to go and put this in the oven, and I need to put some washing on, and it feels like...
It feels horrendous.
The hardest thing in the world. It feels like I'm stuck in mud and I can't move. Which is a neurodiverse thing, but apparently it exacerbates around this time.
That's really interesting.
Yeah.
And maybe so it's massively hormonal, basically.
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
Because I've been quite shocked, and I bought my husband for his birthday the best birthday present he's ever had. They're called Loop.
Oh, I've heard about them.
Yeah, Loop earplugs. They look quite stylish. I got them a gold pair because I wanted... It's probably what I'd have chosen. I think you can get coral, Esther. And they're little loops attached to an earbud thing. And they're not... It's not like an earplug blocking out sound like you would if you wanted to sleep and you're blocking everything out. It kind of makes things bearable, noise levels bearable. And they are advertised to people with sensitivity to sound, and you can get them for kids as well. And I might actually get some.
Well, maybe. I mean, it could, because it could be hormonal. It could be, and also you are moving house very soon, and there's just a lot going on, and happiness and excitement and stress all around that, isn't there? And if I'm overwhelmed, my body is pumping so much cortisol, and I jump at the smallest thing, and then I can't switch off, and the noise does become a bit of an issue for me.
Well, I was talking to some friends this morning about it, and one of them works with lots of children with special educational needs, and she was saying that when they come back from lunch, she sort of gives them a little squeeze, or gets them to squeeze their arms and their legs, because she was saying if you're feeling overwhelmed or sort of I don't know, I suppose on the verge of a panic attack, actually, that baby shower situation I described. If you put your arms, like you hug yourself, basically, and you kind of, get smaller, hug yourself. But she said you can also sort of squeeze yourself. Actually squeezing your hands is so lovely.
Yes.
But if you don't feel like you want to hug yourself in the middle of the street, you can just put your hands together and clasp your hands together and pull them into your heart centre. And that kind of works. And then we were talking about actually having weight on you, and like my kids
blanket.
Love it when we lie. Yes, because I was like, my kids love it when if we lie on top of them, and they'll go full. I know that sounds terrible.
No, it doesn't. I bet
full weight, mummy. I'm like, look, full weight. There's going to be a death. So I'll just pretend it's full weight. But yes, weighted blankets. So I was like, maybe I should just have a weighted blanket. And one of them suggested I have one as a cape. And I was like, yes, I wear it as a cape. Anxiety woman. And I can fly around with my weighted blanket. And if I feel anxious,
Well, my daughter's got a weighted blanket. She's had it a couple of years, and it's bloody brilliant. I have considered getting one because it does just calm you down, doesn't it? And I actually only the other day read about hugging yourself, but also putting your legs up against the wall. Obviously, you've got to be in a space that's possible for that to happen, and it just regulates your nervous system. Because I remember years ago seeing a functional nutritionist about my thyroid, and she said there's two systems, isn't there? There's a sympathetic nervous system, which is when you're on the go, and parasympathetic when your nervous system is nice and calm. And she said you're in your sympathetic far too often, and then that's pumping too much cortisol, and then you're getting a band of fat around your middle, and it's causing all these issues. So you need to get into the parasympathetic, and I know we've said it before, but I think because we're constantly online or having to post things or getting messages all the time, there isn't much time to get into that parasympathetic system. And also, say for you've got 2 young kids, there's a lot going on, and you're moving house, and you're not just moving down the road, you're only going a little way away, but it is going to be a change of everything. So I probably
it's
would be
totally fine.
It will be amazing, but it's just the scary bit now.
I think we need to a new merch idea.
Okay.
Limited time only. Weighted blanket cape.
Oh my God.
With a gold clasp that we can wear. Well, maybe the capes with the armholes. So kind of stylish.
Yes. Either that, or you could have a blow up Susie or Esther full weight to lie on you.
Full weight
your
Esther.
Kids one. Well, lie on you, kids. There you go. You can have a blow up Susie to lie on. I mean, we could make a lot of money out of that, Susie. You're a very sexy young lady. Suze, can we start the meeting now? We've been sat here for 20 minutes.
Sorry, I can't decide which of my Bright Disposition notebooks to use. Do I want to dream big and go for my dreamy navy blue notebook? Or do I want to shine bright with a notebook in luscious bright pink, LTO colours?
They're beautiful, but why have you got 5?
They all made me so happy I had to buy the full range. Plus, I'm down with the company ethos. Bright Disposition is a small family business, and each notebook has been designed with love.
Let me have a look.
Here you go.
Oh, a hard-wearing cover. Mm-hmm. Gorgeous colours. A lovely band to keep them shut. Yeah. A ribbon to keep your place.
And top quality paper that my pen glides over and doesn't seep through. I think I'm in love. OK, I'm feeling sunny, so I'm going for the sky blue. We can start the meeting now, Esther. Esther.
Oh, sorry. I'm just on Etsy ordering stationery from Bright Disposition. There's an LTO discount code for 10% off. I'll be with you in a mo.
No rush. I'm stroking my notebooks.
Bright Disposition. Uplifting gifts to encourage and inspire you. Available from Etsy. And for LTO listeners, there's 10% off. Just use the code LTO10 at checkout. If Susie and Esther haven't bought them all already. Mum, there's another big box from Bright Disposition here.
Hello and welcome to Soul Searching with Susie Riddell and Esther Stanford.
Esther Fanula Fanala.
Fanula?
Fanula,
yes.
That's how I want to be known.
I don't know why. Well, I suppose it sort of instantly makes us feel quite calm and contemplative.
Ooh, yes.
The idea of soul searching.
It does. It does. How do you like to search your soul, Susie?
Search your soul, and when you find me there, you'll search no more.
Any reference to Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, is that how you search your soul, Susan?
I am absolutely on the money with the Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves references.
Kevin Costner, Christian Slater, that is Susie's soul searching. Give her an hour of Robin Hood.
The word search your soul instantly sent me to Bryan Adams. There was it was just bam, straight there.
Bam, yeah.
I mean, I would search my soul with Kevin Costner as Robin Hood any day.
You would.
But unfortunately, he's not available. So what do I do? Well, do you know what? I have been going absolutely bonkers on the soul searching. I've been hitting it hard.
Yeah.
I don't know if this is the right attitude to soul searching.
I think it's a good gung-ho. I'm very similar. Go in, like... both feet, both arms, head in. Let's find out everything I possibly can on this subject.
Yes, both feet into my soul.
Yes.
It's been painful.
Yes.
And but yeah, so I'm doing tons of stuff. Because I've reached an age where I'm now like, do you know what? There is so much stuff in the world. Why don't I just explore it?
Yeah.
Because why not? We're so afraid of so many things that we know nothing about, because we're told to be wary of them or
skeptical.
And it's like, well,
if you can't see it, it's not real. And
which is just a load of bunkadunk. That's a made up word. Because you can't see. Everything I like is not tangible, really. Like music.
Yes.
The things that really get me going, music, or the way
Costner.
Watching Kevin Costner. He's not tangible to me anyway. Watching a fantastic piece of theatre and how it makes me feel. I'm interested in how things make me feel. And if it makes me feel good, then I don't see the problem. As long as it's not breaking the law.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I agree. And what do you think about things like tarot and astrology and stuff like that?
I am fully there to be, to explore all this stuff. So I've become very interested in tarot because I discovered, and we will be speaking to Lindsay Mack later, I discovered Lindsay's podcast, and I'd also been talking to a lovely woman called Caroline Cousins, who I met a couple of years ago, and I was who knows about tarot and sort of that soul healing kind of thing. And I just thought, why not? Because when I was younger, I think tarot always has this kind of reputation of being, it's that kind of occulty sort of reputation, but I don't actually think that's certainly not at all how Lindsay works with tarot, or Caroline, or any of the tarot I've been interested in recently. It's really supportive and intuitive and kind of exploring what's holding you back, and giving you inspiration. And I can't see what's wrong with that, really.
No, it's interesting, isn't it? I am really interested. I've had a set of tarot cards since I was about 15. I asked my dad for some for Christmas, and I've still got this set. And every so often I will pull a card, or I'll do like a little... I think sometimes you're just looking for something. If you're not sure about what the next step is, actually, really, what they say you should do is lock yourself in a cupboard and just the answers are within you. But there's
scream.
something, and maybe that's what it is. What did you say? Sorry.
And scream
Into a pillow.
That's what I do.
But I think sometimes when, like, almost like they're a divination tool. So sometimes I will be unclear, and then I pull cards and I go, oh yeah, that's brilliant. That's what I. But I wonder if that's more to do with it's connecting to something that's within me. So I've already got the answer within me, and then I lean on the cards to sort of affirm something that I know deep down. Sometimes I wonder whether it's something like that, because
I think that is it. That is it.
Yeah.
And that's actually what I've written down.
Is it?
Yeah.
See, I knew that. Intuitive me.
Because I did have a tarot reading about 2 months ago, and I was talking to it was online, and I was talking to the reader at the end, and he was sort of saying, people think it's like you will meet a tall dark stranger and go on a voyage across the sea. It's not like that at all. It's affirming what you already know, and it's a type of, I suppose it's a type of therapy in a way, because actually what we're all looking for. We're all looking for support, and we're all looking for, purpose and meaning. And it is all in us, isn't it? It's just sometimes it's hard to focus in what it actually is.
And I think we've got so many things that we can do. And you and I are both very similar in that we've got 1,000,001 ideas. And so there's loads of different avenues to go down. And sometimes you just want somebody to go, no, it's this. And so if you do the tarot and it comes up with something, you go, oh yeah, that makes sense. Because really, you probably know inside which is the thing that you want to do. But it's sort of having that confidence, or not being too swayed by what's going on. I'm trying, as I get getting older, to not ask other people's opinions so much on what I do, because I've always done that. What do you think I should do? What do you think? And really, it's because I'd like decisions. Really, it's because I would just like to hear somebody else's take on it as well, because sometimes somebody will say something and I'll think, I never considered that didn't even enter my head. But I'm feeling like I want to come into my Samantha from Sex and the City phase. I feel like I want to be really self-assured and know, like, do you know what that reminded me of episode 1, our very first episode, when I said one day I'd like to be one of those ladies that knows, is very self-assured.
Olympia Dukakis.
Yes, Olympia Dukakis, Rita Fairclough, Bette Lynch. Yeah. And I feel like, I've actually gone into fallen into astrology a lot recently, and
I just imagine you falling through the sky,
through all the stars,
amongst the stars,
the constellations.
Oh, it's lovely.
It's absolutely fascinating. I'm still not 100% on board with it. I still wouldn't say I put my life down that this works, but what I'm reading and what I'm learning about it is so fascinating. And because I used to think, it's 12 houses, and my father-in-law would say things like that. You'd read the paper, go, I don't believe in that. It's 12 houses. How can it be? 1/12 of the global population is going to have this happen to them. But actually, when you break it down and you go into the other houses, and I don't know if I said this on here once before, but I was working with a guy the back end of last year, and he is really into astrology, and then he asked me for my details and he put them in and he went, and he started to tell me about what he could see from my my planets, and then he said, there's something very weird here, and he went a bit uncomfortable, and I said, what is it? And he went, well, you've got this in the 8th house and it's something to do with your mother, but it's not good, but it's not a bad relationship, and I'm getting death. And I thought, fucking hell, and I said, well, she died when I was 11. And he went, yeah, I can sort of see that. And I thought, well, how does that make sense? How? And it was really bizarre. But I was looking, I've been reading, and I've also just been nosediving so deep into it. And a lot of it makes sense. And looking at my kids' charts and looking at mine and what it's the things it says I'm good at. And then I've looked at yours, and
it is really interesting.
It's really interesting.
I mean, I see a lot of stuff on Instagram, and I've been reading things on there. And I got something the other day, and I read the whole thing, Pisces, my time of birth or whatever, and what is it? Your natal moon thing. And I was like, oh my gosh, this absolutely describes me.
Yeah.
But then I suppose I do think, well, if I actually read a Gemini one, would I also go, oh yeah, that's absolutely me? If you change the name, if you changed it from Pisces to Gemini and didn't tell me.
Yeah.
But I don't know, because I haven't, because I'm not interested in Gemini. I'm only interested in me.
Well, you should be interested in Gemini because you're a Gemini moon.
Oh, yes. Apart from that,
yeah. I mean, we can't go too far into this because most people might be going, oh, Christ, girls, what the hell are you talking about? But it is fascinating. So I heard Dua Lipa being interviewed, and she said, I don't have a business coach. I have an astrologer who helps me time my stuff. And
wow.
and apparently that's what a lot of the top business people do. They have an astrologer tell
Crikey.
them, go for this now and do that now. And this won't be working for you at the moment. And so, I find it absolutely fascinating.
Wow.
This service is fully personalised. If we're not heading the right way, please pull the cord and we can reroute. It's never too late to change direction. Thank you.
Emma Guns, who we had on the show a couple of episodes ago, had spoken about the way women are sort of sold to in terms of soul, I suppose, soul-based soul searching.
Yeah.
I mean, Instagram is just rife with adverts all the time. Posts that come up about astrology or tarot, manifesting as well.
Mm.
And, manifesting. I mean, tarot, I don't know hardly anything about it. I'm learning, but I just find it really interesting. And astrology, and again, I don't really know much about it. I like reading things, and it's just quite interesting and fun and expansive. Manifesting, I mean, there's so many people trying to sell you stuff to do with manifesting. And I'm like, well, but I kind of get what it is. I don't know why I need to pay hundreds of pounds to be taught how to manifest by a woman showing a midriff and prancing up and down with a headset on like Madonna.
I do like Roxy Nafusi. I like her, but I mean, my God, what an ascendancy she's had from like 2021. She started her business and she's like huge and global. But I've listened to her books on Audible and they're really good and they make a lot of sense to me. But I know what you mean. We are sort of targeted. I mean, I suppose if we've talked about it, then bloody your phone listens anyway, doesn't it, and shows you stuff.
It's frightening.
Which is scary. But there's definitely, well, there's a thing, isn't there, when they say women in their 40s all become witches, which we all go down the spiritual route when we get to a certain age.
Yes.
Although
why is that?
I suppose I was really into spirituality when I was a teenager, and I used to meditate a lot, and I used to have really sort of trippy experiences when I meditated. Actually, there were a few times when I'd sort of feel like I was falling too far, and I had Reiki once, and the lady said, well, you were actually about to come out of your body. And I've had similar sensations when I've done breathwork with Sue, and she said she's had it, but she's always sort of been a bit scared, and I have, and sort of and I think maybe it's just something, maybe it's to do with our mortality and the fact that our bodies are changing, and it's not just all about looking like a hot piece of ass anymore.
And I think as well, because we focus so much on other people, and even if you don't have children, you're kind of focusing on work or a partner or a parent, or friends who need you. And I think looking at soul searching as a kind of pastime, I suppose, it's like focusing on yourself for once, and a kind of connection. It's looking for a connection it's sort of within and without you, isn't it? It's searching for a deeper meaning, but also grounding in the world, I think, and trying not to worry so much. I mean, it's kind of really what this podcast is about in a way. It's that limited time only. We've got a limited time on the planet, but it's trying not to worry about that, and to try and enjoy living on the planet and be connected to the planet and the stars and the moon and things that when we actually stop and look at them and think about them, you know, I mean, I always think, if I think about the moon, my instant image of the moon would be the moon shining on the sea. And it's such a beautiful thing to see. You could see it thousands and thousands times in your life and it would still be beautiful. And that's wonderful. And that's kind of, that to me, those moments where you're just connected and looking at the stars. Yeah. That's really connecting with your soul and kind of realising you're part of this big thing that's so much bigger than we are, and that it's okay. Everything's okay, I suppose.
It is. It's sitting with it, and maybe it is the fact that we are in our middle years and that we don't have all the answers to everything, and the things that you thought you might have the answer to by the time you were 25 or 30 or 35, nothing's ever finished. You know, you never really have the answers. You're just constantly on a journey, and so it's being open to all those other things and not feeling like you have to tick the boxes so much like you did in your 20s. And I think when you there's sort of a roadmap for the early years of your life. You get married, you have some kids, and that's brilliant, and I wouldn't change any of the decisions I made. But then this bit there isn't a roadmap for, and so you sort of go, well, what of that did I want, and what of that did I think I should want? And I did want that. But it's sort of making you sit back and sort of evaluate, well, who am I and what actually do I want? Because there's no roadmap for this bit. This is just the years between now and retirement.
Well, the ideas of having a roadmap, I was listening to something yesterday, and it's life is chaotic. It is chaos, and the idea that we can control our lives is a complete fallacy. Yeah. And the sooner we accept that it's chaos, the better, in a way. And I've kind of come to terms with that a little bit. But you don't know. We don't know what's going to happen.
No.
And I think we're told so much that, especially I'm thinking about actors, and it's like, if you really want it, it'll happen. And it's like, well, no, it doesn't work like that, actually.
It doesn't.
Because you have to, well, for a start off, I mean, that's manifesting it. It's just wanting something, isn't it? But then actually you've got to do the work as well.
It's almost like having a clear path, isn't it? It's
Yeah.
a clear vision, of what you want, and then keeping the clarity of that vision and just taking one step forward every day so that you get closer to it, and then doors
actually,
open to you.
Even then, it might, from A to B is so far from A. You might end up at C or D, or and actually you might think, oh well, that's better.
Yeah.
That's okay. And we change so much over our lives. I mean, I'm really at the moment, I think this is part of why I'm interested in just other stuff, other things, because I'm like, well, I want to know everything. I kind of want to explore everything.
Yeah.
And I am realising that some of those dreams or desires that I had 20 odd years ago are different. And actually, that's okay. And
Yes.
and it's learning to let things go, and to accept that they might not fit with where you are now in your life, because it's completely different to how it was 20 years ago.
Yeah, and I feel the same, actually. And I think when you have changed then you can become a bit lost. So sort of, well, I always wanted to do that, but I don't know if I do want to do that anymore. I don't think that really fits with who I am. Well, then who am I? But then I also, listening to what you were saying then, I sort of wonder as well, with the tarot and the astrology and stuff, there isn't any control in the universe, but maybe sometimes we look at that to sort of help us feel like there is, like, well, I'm like this because of this. And maybe that's sort of trying to find some rhyme or reason or order to everything when there probably isn't any as well. But we do change so much. And I think when you have changed and your desires are different, it can be quite stabilizing and destabilizing. Sorry, and then you've sort of got to work out who you are again.
Yes.
Which is joyful, but fucking scary when you've always been, I'm this. Well, no, I'm not now.
It's finding tools to help you find out, help you work out who you are.
And what do I want then? What do I want, if I'm halfway through, which I really hope I am, what do I want the next 45 years of my, 46 years?
I'm only a third of the way through.
Oh, are you? Oh, you're going to like, what would that make you? Nearly 150. Well, manifest it, Suze.
Manifest 150.
Welcome to mind-bendingly complex adventures in astrology, where we ask the questions it's impossible for you to. I'm Yvette Fielding. I've moved on from ghosts to planets, and today I'm joined by Uranus.
It's Uranus.
And here we are at Mystic Meg's humble 18-bedroom mansion to see the massive impact Uranus can have on your life. Isn't that right, Uranus?
It's Uranus.
And your anus affected Robert Downey Jr.'s life when it moved into retrograde earlier this month, causing him no end of gut issues, which significantly impacted those around him. Robert Downey Jr., can you tell us how Uranus moving into retrograde affected you?
Yes, I can, Yvette Fielding. It affected me a lot.
Great. Thank you, Robert Downey Jr. Uranus. You're a pain in my ass. What made you go into retrograde for Robert Downey Jr.?
Something to do, isn't it?
So there you have it, guys. Join us next week on mind-bendingly complex adventures in astrology to discover why Jupiter in the 3rd house means Shirley Ballas's favourite meal will always be a Greggs sausage roll, and why Neptune in the 1st house means the crankies will only ever be able to pronounce the word quinoa as quinoa.
It's quinoa.
Uranus!
I love a good podcast. And when I find one I really like, I tell everyone I know about it. I grab my phone and I share the podcast with everyone in my address book. And then I post about the podcast on social media. Then I rate and review the podcast. And then I have a warm feeling inside for the rest of the day. Just saying. I hope you're enjoying this episode of Limited Time Only. I know I am. Now, where's my phone?
It's an absolute pleasure to meet you.
I feel so honored. Your podcast is so fabulous, and it's like always something I want to do. Like, I feel like people have me on, and I'm happy to get very serious with you, but I do feel like y'all are so funny, and it's just like it's a breath of fresh. I'm excited.
Today's guest is an international guest, intuitive tarot teacher, artist, writer, podcast host, and founder of Tarot for the Wild Soul, Lindsay Mack. Hailed as one of the most important new voices in the world of modern spirituality and wellness, Lindsay is a tarot teacher, writer, mother, and founder. Based in Portland, Oregon, Lindsay is the creator of Soul Tarot, a radical reinterpretation of the tarot as a helping tool, one that can assist us in differentiating the noise of our thinking mind from that of the truth of our soul. Through their workshops, retreats, and online courses through Tarot School, Lindsay has taught tarot to tens of thousands of people from all around the world. We talked to Lindsay about what led them to tarot, how they go about a reading, how there are no bad cards, and how their nervous breakdown led them to shed who they were, clearing the decks for them to find what they were truly meant to do. Welcome to the show, Lindsay Mack.
I never had any aspirations to do this. I didn't know this was a career you could really have. It wasn't something I aimed to do. It's very cheesy to say, but it did find me, and I sort of said yes to it. And now, since then, I've done a lot of work, but I got my first tarot deck when I was around 12 years old, and I don't remember having any prior introduction to tarot. It just seemed interesting to me. I've always been interested in spirituality, intuition. I can't remember a time where I didn't feel that I was kind of a witch, even though that wasn't really a part of my exposure. It just felt right. And I read for myself and all my friends throughout middle school, high school, but one of my experiences is that every time I went to read a book and teach myself, because I'm a good Virgo rising and I wanted to do that,
Oh, I love that you know all that. I can tell you what mine are.
Okay, I can't wait. I can't wait. I need this from both of you. If you have the information, I would love to receive that.
Okay.
But yeah, the unintentional, the thing that I never knew would come back and be such a significant part of my life and the way I teach tarot is that I really was put off by all of the literature that I consumed about tarot. I found it, that you have to remember, the context of a queer 12-year-old. I was nothing about the romance piece makes any sense to me. Some of these things feel scary. I was confused by it. And I remember thinking, well, maybe I can take what works and see what just comes through. We'll just see what comes through. I'm going to trust myself and I'm going to see. But I remember that I was how can you quantify? Someone's going to stab me in the back. I'm going to meet someone has a message for me. I remember it's my autistic brain. I was that doesn't make any sense. I can't take that on, So anyway, I did it for fun, and flash forward a couple of career cycles. I was working as a performance artist and then stopped doing that and did some work with day jobs for a while, and then found coaching back in 2011, and I really liked it, and I did that, and then personally went through a really, really difficult time, which kind of cleared the deck for me. And I had the opportunity to do a pop-up in a store, and they were can you read tarot? And I hadn't read it in forever, and I was sure. And I came in and did it, and that was my first time doing it. It was $5 a reading, but in that moment I knew I love this more than I've loved doing anything else. I think I'm really good at it. I loved the experience of being able to be of service to folks. And I remember walking out and calling my now husband and being I think I want to do this. I think this is my thing. And really, when I say it's tremendous work went into it, but it also was I did that for a little while. I graduated to doing tarot in a healing space. I graduated to doing it in my own house. I started teaching. People were very responsive. I started doing my podcast. Millions of people were very responsive. So it's been a lovely ride where I had a dream and people really responded to it. Now it's what pays our bills, which is, very nice. And
it's
amazing. Perfect.
Yeah.
And do you think, I know you talked about having a really tough time, and I love that expression, clear the decks, almost like you had to exercise all this stuff that was in you, so that then you can start afresh and find what you're here to do, would you say?
I would. And, I'll go further for anybody who's really struggling. So I had what I would say was probably a nervous breakdown that was caused by just being an abuse survivor and having PTSD and not, I went right from the abusive house I grew up in to school and then to work. Like I never had support. I never had that option. And it was long enough ago. I'm not that old, but 40. There's just been such a change in the last 10 or 15 years and like awareness about all that. I just didn't know the impact of that. I didn't understand what a mess I was. I didn't understand, like I had to work. So even though I would have panic attacks, whatever, I didn't really have the option to like opt out of anything. I just pushed. So when I had that breakdown, I had wanted my whole life to be a performer and I didn't want to be a performer anymore. I had wanted to be a coach and I was like, that's not quite it. And it was the first time in my memory that I remember there being a bit of a vacuum where I thought like, well, I don't know quite what I'm going to do. I'm interested. And this came right in. So for anybody who's really going through a big, big night of the soul, it's not forever. And it usually is a tower-like moment where things have to be cleared out so much that something much more expansive and supportive can come in. Maybe not something like this, but something that is far more, again, nourishing. So,
do you think you wanted to be a performer because of the environment you were growing up in, that it was an escapism into somebody else, and also it's a way of getting strokes and praise, and then if all of that has collapsed within you and you've had this breakdown, that's not what gets you through anymore, and also it's not necessarily authentic to who you are. It was maybe more of a coping mechanism.
100%, that's all true. And I didn't understand, and by the way, this is not news, but there is an element to theater community. It's difficult to be your best self in it. Like there's so much like jealousy and competition. There's so much emphasis, at least when I was doing it, on like body image, and like it brought out my worst self. And I was in a theater company. There was so much discord and drama in that theater company. So all of what you're saying, Esther, is 100% true, which took me, I was like, 28 years old with Saturn return vibes when I figured that out. I was like, oh, I love theater. I love performance. I love singing. I love the art of this. I love this craft. I do not want to pursue it as a profession. This is not for me, but that was news to me. Like I really got a major in it, worked professionally. And then I was just like, no,
What really struck me about your story is that you loved tarot from when you were like 12. And I find it really interesting that kind of often the things that make us most happy are things that we've loved since we were
100%.
Kids. And sometimes people push those away because they think they're of another time, or they're childish. I mean, I'm an actor. This is what I've loved since I was a kid. But it's
playing.
But it's playing. But I think that the child element of things that make us happy, that's what's vital, really. If we can find the thing that made us happy as a child and do that as a career, then God, it's you could be happy, really.
100%, 100%, yeah.
And did you find when you realised this is not what I want to do anymore, and there was that sort of void, did the realisation that you wanted to do tarot, did that come in quite quickly, or were you a bit like, oh my God, who the hell am I then for a while?
Well, what happened was that, so what happened was I remember having a conversation with a director friend of mine, actually, in a restaurant, and saying to that person, like, oh, I'm so burned out with theater. I'm so burned out with auditioning. I hate it. If I could help people holistically with their anxiety journey, I'd be like the happiest person in the world. And I am such a can-do person that I was like, heard myself say that. And I remember thinking like, how could I do that? How might I do that? And I found coaching and signed up for what sounded like the best thing. I remember I had no money at the time. And it was life-changing. And that's when I started like a little coaching kind of wellness practice with a friend of mine who was a yoga teacher. it took me a couple more years to be in a position where spirit came in. Like, for some reason, that was the thing that I was always pushing away, even though it was a huge refuge, a big part of my life. I pushed it away to be like a downtown theater artist. I pushed it away to be a coach because I wanted to be more like shiny at that time. I just thought that was what you should do. And then when I had a breakdown, that was the only refuge that really, along with like medication and therapy and my psychiatrist, like, let's be real. But that was a very important element. And tarot, coming back to it, was a refuge. And tarot came in once the coaching piece actually fell away. Coaching piece had to fall away. So I'd say there was about 2 years where I went on to one step, and then that had to fall away, and then the next step appeared, and then it was tarot.
And you say it was quite spiritual. Did you? I know you did the tarot and you know, for $5 and whatever. But was it almost like a bolt of lightning? This is what I should be doing.
Yeah, it was. It was this like warm certainty where I was just like, this is it. This is it. This is my calling. This is my art. And there was a sense of like, I am really not good at it. Like, I know that there have been people I've read for, I'm not for them. There have been times where I'm like, oh, it's not my best. But there is a sense of like, I know that I have skill and facility, and there's a desire to be of service here. And all those things are coming together. Like, there was a recognition of like, this is a gift that I have that I enjoy giving, and that people are enjoying receiving. And I didn't have to audition for it. No. So there was that piece too.
That's the key.
Yeah. And you're not a square peg in a round hole anymore. Yeah. Like, this is where you're supposed to be. This is exactly who you are. You reference astrology a lot. Is that part of your work? Because I am so deep into astrology at the moment. I mean, I've had tarot cards since I was about 16, and I've got the same set, and I'll quite often bring them out. And if I'm unsure of something, and I'll go, I just want something, I pull something, and it is like, that makes total sense to me. But I'm so deep into astrology at the moment. I'm doing everybody's, like, I'm trying to learn the ins and outs of it. But is that a big part of your work?
Okay, so I would say that I have yet to come up with like a good solid like reference point for it. I would say that I am not excellent at it, and I don't know a lot, but I know enough to have it be a helpful influence to my tarot work. That is what I know. My really dear friend Jeff Hinshaw, who is a magnificent astrologer and tarot reader, who is a real astrologer, is always like, you know a lot, but I don't really. Like, if you really get me going, I could talk about it, but once we get into like different ins and outs and pieces, I don't. I'm clearly not trained, but I know enough to know what I'm talking about. Does that make sense?
Yes, totally.
I found your podcast because I was interested in tarot. I had a tarot reading from someone in the UK, which I really enjoyed, and I was jogging, and I like listening to podcasts when I'm jogging, and I was like, I'm going to find a podcast about tarot. So I found yours, and it was like the start of the year. So I've been listening. So I sort of wait to the end of the month, and then I'm like, when's the next one coming out? And it's been an absolute joy to listen to. I'm sort of getting a bit lost listening to you because I'm like, I feel like I'm listening to a podcast, and I'm like, no, she's actually there. She's actually there in front of me. I can speak to her. I'm going to start speaking to you when I'm running now. And why are you not replying? But you're on your website, which is beautiful, by the way. One of the nicest websites.
Shout out to the designer, Rochelle Sartini Garner, who everyone should work with. She's amazing. She created that.
It's gorgeous, really gorgeous, and very clear as well, and a beautiful colour pink, which I'm a big fan of. But it describes your approach to tarot as, I'm going to read it because it's so beautifully put, a heart-centered approach to tarot, rooted in an inclusive, soul-led, trauma-informed, evolutionary framework. And it just is so inviting, and I'd love to sort of delve into your approach to tarot and how you approach a reading.
Absolutely. So first of all, you honor me, and I'm delighted, just tickled pink. Thank you for all of those reflections. So yeah, because of my story about how a lot of, listen, I owe everything to the people who came before me and paved my ability to do this path and make a living at it. So I'm not in any way knocking anyone who studies and has written about the craft of tarot at all. But I do think that there are pieces, really bedrock pieces about tarot that don't work. And that was really clear to me as a 12-year-old. And I'm not saying that my perspective is the right one or the best one at all, but I do think that there is another way. And that other way is the type of tarot that I teach that I call soul tarot. So in a nutshell, soul tarot is exactly what you described. It has a couple of tenets that really inform the way I read, the way I serve, the way I teach, which is that there are no bad cards. There are no bad cards. There are no bad pulls. All cards bring medicine. We don't have to like every card. That's really important. We can absolutely not be pleased to see a card. We can be like, ugh, we can put it back in the deck. We have full agency. But if there is a willingness to have just an ounce, 1% of your being, say, willing to consider that there could be something around this pull that could be bringing a gift, my job, my responsibility, my mission is to wonder about that. When we're willing to wonder about that, it can and does transform our relationship to that card. It shifts our perspective about it. It does. We don't have to like it. And by the way, I'm also not saying that all cards are good. There are shitty, horrible things about this life. There are flavors. There are things in this world, in the natural world, that are very spiky, very bitter, very spiny. But it's not bad. And when that perspective, which informs a tremendous amount of the way tarot is taught, that there are good pulls, there are bad pulls, it's a massive undoing of a very strong overcultural framework. So that's the first thing. We consider all cards not as good, happy, whatever, but just as bringing something that is medicinal to us, helpful. The other thing I like to say is that tarot card pulls happen for us. They don't happen to us. So there is also a very quiet, very subtle thing that can happen for folks when they read for themselves or they get readings where it can feel like this is happening to me. This is going to be happening around me. You can't know that. Nobody can know that. No one can know. I don't care how gifted you are. I am a very clear intuitive. There are many things I'm not privileged to. There are lots of things I don't know. When we consider each tarot card as being for us, it really shifts things, right? Shifts a little bit, can move the needle. We also, in my approach, look to each tarot pull, and this is so subtle, as being an invitation, not a dictation. So if we pull the tarot, the tower, it's, absolutely. It could be a heads up like, hey, look, this is an example in my own life. I'm writing a book right now. Every single time I've pulled a card about my book, I get the tower. And that's been alarming and interesting and curious. And so far, I understand no bombs have gone off, so to speak, but there has been a whole lot of deep tower work in order to feel like I'm worthy of writing a book, that it's safe to be seen in that way. I'm willing to potentially fail at this process publicly. I'm willing to put myself out there and be vulnerable. That's all tower work for me. So invitation, not dictation, not decree. And then, the only other piece that I'd say may be valuable is that you can feel like shit and show up to your deck. There's a really insidious part of New Age culture, wellness culture, I think just puritanical culture, probably, like that we're all privy to, that there's this idea that like you need to be zenned out and calm and feeling good to go to your deck. This is a conduit between your relationship between yourself or your higher wise self or your sense of God or guides. If you work with that, you do not need to be feeling good to have access to that relationship. I feel that when all of those things are in place, the tarot can open up and be a very powerful tool. And I suppose the last piece, and probably the most important, is that because the future is not fixed, we can't really reliably, it's not to say that we can't do it, but we can't reliably do a tarot reading for the future unless we are, again, like some Romani tarot readers, some other tarot readers from different cultures have kind of closed practices that are more predictive. And I say that's beautiful, and I fully respect that. But in terms of somebody just going to a tarot practice, we're really prone to be like, what's going to happen about this? What are we going to do about it? What's the outcome? We don't know, right? A much more accessible question is, what support could I call upon to go through this situation? Is there any way that I can tend to myself? Is there an aligned action to take, if any? What am I being invited to learn about this, right? We could create other ones as well. So again, it doesn't, some people like get their, panties in a bunch sometimes, and they'll be like, your descriptions of the cards are the same as everyone else's. I'm like, yeah, because it's not really about, some of them are and some of them aren't. It's more about the craft and the use of tarot and how we read that is different. And I actually think it's quite subtle, but it will change so much of the way we understand our decks, we go to our decks, we integrate a reading. So yeah, in a nutshell, and that is much of how I approach a reading. I want to know how I can support somebody, and I want to know, what season are they moving through? How can they work most skillfully with it? What kind of support is available? What is the deepest lesson that they can glean at this time? What wants their attention most? If they're looking for love, like I'll 100%, work with that and just say like, what card's showing up for them around that desire, and we talk about that. So it's kind of paradoxical. You can still get really strong hits for folks. You can even get clarity around like, in the cycles or seasons to come, this is what I feel, this is what I see might be possible. But more, it's truly about what's here now, which really informs the path ahead. So that was so long, but in a nutshell, that's it.
No,
it's lovely.
Great.
Yeah, really fantastic. When you talk about being a conduit, and sometimes I feel I'm sort of quite good at predicting things, and and I've got a strong intuition, I believe, and when I trust my gut, it always tends to work. But do you think there is a way of sort of explaining how that works? Mm-hmm. Because it's quite a thing to explain to somebody, isn't it? Like, oh, you pull a card and that card is meant for you.
Yeah, I think so. So this is something that an old teacher of mine, Michelle Sine, used to talk about a lot, and a lot of this is informed from that. And I don't think Michelle's the only person to talk about it, but they're the person who really introduced me to it. But this idea of we're always having a dual experience, no matter who we are or what we are, where we are. Like, right, we have our kind of, this is deep apologies to any person who actually understands the brain and neurology, pardon me. But like we're
definitely not scientists.
But we have the part of us that is what we would consider to be like the dominant voice in our head, right? We have our thinking mind, we have, and maybe if we've had trauma, or maybe if we've undergone, like we have anxiety or whatever, the critic might be a lot louder than it is for some, our inner critic, or we might have a really hypervigilant voice in there. But that voice in there that we live with all the time is born of like a primal part of us that we evolved from, like our animal ancestors, right? It's meant to keep us in safety in what's familiar and to keep us alive. That is its main goal. That part of us is not terribly interested in evolving through difficult circumstances, in putting ourselves out there. That part of us is like, survive, And again, if our circumstances have been harder, it's extra intense to break out of that. But we also have another part of us, and some of us might call it the soul or the spirit or the creative essence, or who knows what, there's a million different ways we could describe that. That's both of spirit, not of spirit, depending on our belief systems, that feels the exact opposite as that part of us, who wants to leave the comfortable fold and fly out of the nest, that is called to move out of difficult circumstances, that wants to fly instead of stay on the ground. And we're constantly in dialogue, and sometimes in harmony and sometimes in dissonance with that part of us. I look at that as whatever our soul is. And we can think of in the body, there are basically two different channels, right? And channel one is kind of that brain voice that is like, be comfortable, be safe, don't make waves, don't like whatever. And the soul is a whisper, and we often really feel it in the body. Some of us just know it. Some of us hear it. And I think that soul channel, or whatever you want to call that, is not just us, our body's wisdom, like the wisdom from our gut, from our heart, but if we're available to it, we absolutely receive things from muses, from creation, from spirit. Who fucking knows where? One incredible story that I hope connects, and I hope I'm going on so long, but
no, you haven't.
Great.
Brilliant.
Honestly,
so
you're not
the
at all.
song "I Only Have Eyes for You," which was like, I think, a 60s song. It's great. It's really dreamy. It's really different from other songs that came out around that time. The lead singer of that band, it's on Wikipedia, so people can look this up, but he was trying so hard to get that song right, working so hard to the point where he was completely exhausted. And so he was like, fuck it, I'm falling asleep. Like, I'm going to sleep. I'm taking a nap. And he said he had a dream where he heard the song in full, exactly as we hear it. And he ran and got his band and they recorded it. And that's what we've got. So like, we could say like, oh, we shut off so the subconscious, whatever. That's fair. That's fine. I think that's fine. But like, there's something in that, like the thinking mind tries and tries and tries. And sometimes that has to get quiet enough for the other thing to come up. I believe everybody on this planet has access to that channel. Some people are born and that channel is wide open, and their work is how to build a couple, like some scaffolding around that channel. Like folks who had really traumatic childhood experiences, like seeing things or sensing things, like they have to work to back that, like top load that in a different way. And some people like myself, who always had feelings, always had hunches, always had, I had to get out of my abusive environment, do a lot of trauma work, heal the nervous system enough that came down in volume so that the other part could be amplified. So it does take time. We can be like audible intuitives who don't actually know it because we're in either an unsafe situation or a difficult situation. So that's kind of how we can look at it. It's like there's the kind of mind, it's all one thing, but there's kind of that one part of us, and then there's another part of us that just isn't conditioned to be listened to all that much in our culture,
There's a couple of things that came to me really. It's things that I often think about people. Mm-hmm. When I think about someone, I'll then get a text or a call or an email from them. I know that it's somehow or other there's been a connection somewhere. But I think we're often not letting, our brains are often very busy, aren't they? Because they are on the phone or whatever. And we don't allow ourselves to sit and receive and daydream. Esther often says she needs her gazing time, looking out the window. And yeah, it's when you give yourself just space to let things come in, ideas or inspiration or connections with people. But in our society now, there's less and less option to do that, isn't there? Because we don't allow ourselves to do it.
We're constantly reacting, aren't we, to something. There's something coming at us all the time. So there's no... I don't know if you've ever read the book by Elizabeth Gilbert, Big Magic.
Amazing.
And that, I don't know if you read that, Suze. So it's so good. And she talks about the fact that there are ideas in the world, and if it lands with you and you suddenly get this spark of inspiration, I've got to do this. If you don't do it, 6 months later you'll see that someone else has done it. It's because the idea just needs to go to somebody. And that really resonates with me. Yeah, it's really, really interesting. But yeah, if my brain's quiet, the stuff that comes through, and I've had so many weird experiences that just aren't explainable in a very black and white scientific way. And so there has to be this other stuff going on. When you do a reading and you're working with somebody, how do you go about it? How do you do it?
So when somebody books with me, they usually, it might be like a lot of information, it might be like a teeny little bit, but they usually give me some sense or context of what we're doing. And then we'll exchange, like, thank you for being here. And then I will sort of pass the mic to them and give them a larger opportunity to explain what they'd like support on. Usually I have found, I didn't try to go about doing this, but I have found that usually someone's spirit guides will start talking to me as they're talking. It sounds a little odd to imagine, like, it happens through deep listening. It doesn't seem like I could be listening to them and this person, but it is actually through the deepest listening and presence with this person that I can also sense that. It's very strange to explain. But sometimes guides are chomping at the bit to talk to someone, and that's good. And that's really good information for me, because I'm like, oh, maybe this person just, they don't have enough, like maybe they're just trying to get out everything that they can to this person because they know they're listening.
Would this be somebody that has been in their life, or would this be somebody just, the other guides, people that have passed? Or
so this is a great question, Esther. So I am one of those rare birds that I don't really care who I'm talking to. There are a lot of people who like need to know names, who you are, what you are, and that's their gift. And I've never minded. I know that by feeling, is somebody really a guide for this person or are they not? As far as what I can understand, like who talks to me, it's beloved dead in the person's life, ancestors who are here and who want to be of service. Sometimes it's like a feeling of an angel. Sometimes it's a feeling of like I always like to say, like there's big G guides and little G guides. Like we can have big G guides that are sort of, I would say, guardians that have never really lived here, but are sort of stationed as helpers that we're connected to before we're born. Like we all have these beings that help us. I wouldn't say they're like Pleiadians or anything, because they could be. I just am not in that world. But a sense of benevolent support that is available to all of us. That's what I would consider to be like big G guides. And then there's no value judgment on big G. Little G guides, I would say, are like your beloved pet who passed, who's now present with you, or a really beloved friend, or sometimes even a place. Sometimes even like a place that you feel really close with. If there's like a patch of,
how does that come through? How does a place come through?
Just a feeling. Yeah. I've never, like the other day I did a reading for someone and got moss, and it completely made sense to the person. They had like, I love moss. They had like 5 different points, and they were like, I cannot believe you said that. Like people call me this, like whatever. So sometimes that comes through. Guides will use anything. Sometimes they use imagery. Like sometimes I'll get like for a person like a message around like dancing, and I have to explain to the person, you may not dance, but something in the idea of that, like music and light and joy and movement, that's what to move toward, kind of thing. But anyway, I'll start hearing from their guides usually, and then I move into a more like formal drop-in where I ask for my guides to come in, I ask for their guides to come in formally. I'll lift up everything that the client wants, and then I listen, or I'll get a feeling, and then I'll either kind of take note of a message if there is one, and then I pull cards based on like what I'm feeling, and then I either might share the message first or share the cards first or whatever, but it's usually like a big channel download that comes through. It's sort of an approximation of all that.
It's so fascinating. And the cards, when you're going through them, do you just feel, obviously the cards have a meaning behind them, but can you just say what you feel with them?
Yes, I would say. I'm hesitating here, perhaps annoyingly, because sometimes I have to work against my feelings. Sometimes I know it's
Right,
bizarre. I know it
yes.
is. Sometimes Lindsay has big feelings about what a person could be doing or should be doing. Like, get out of this fucking situation. Like, come
Yes, yes,
on.
yes. Yeah.
Or the person is moving through such difficult times and there's a reading full of like cards about that are a little bit brighter in tone, and I'm like, ooh, how to manage that.
That is so interesting. As in your conscious brain, you're like,
Well,
this isn't right. But what I'm getting
sometimes
is,
guides will come in and they'll have something really different for me, and they'll say like yes and not right now. Like, I can think of one example particularly where I was like, I cannot wait to tell this person to get the fuck out of this situation. And her guides came in and they were like, this is a little bit, they've been through so much trauma. If they want to leave, absolutely. But like, they don't definitely let them know they can take their time. They can go the time. It's not an emergency right now. And all their cards reflected that. So it's my job to be aware of my bias and aware of my feelings, and also follow the lead of the song of the reading, because every reading is really different and they feel like songs to me, where there's just different harmony with every reading, with every collection of cards. And that's actually a good tip to anybody out there who this might be useful for. It can be very difficult to read multiple cards and to feel like, oh my God, this card does not make sense with the other one. What the fuck? And if you can make it a game and be like, oh, these two notes in my brain do not belong together, and yet they're presenting me with some melody. It's my job to make sense of that melody. So it's a great tip for anybody who struggles with that, is like, assume the song is correct. Your job is to follow it. Does that make sense?
That's brilliant. Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm aware that we're going to have to let you go.
I'm enjoying every moment of.
Oh, I'm so glad. I'm on your mailing list now, so I'm getting all the information about, the different courses and stuff, and I'm like, I'm very, very tempted. So at some point you might see me, because I'd love to learn about it.
That would be great. So it's interesting you mentioned like doing courses and stuff. In about 2 weeks, I'm starting a Substack called No Bad Cards. That is going to be kind of a different branch of the podcast. It'll be weekly content, and it'll be super accessible ways of learning my approach that is only $5 a month. And there's lots of different, like, there's downloads for every season. There's little rituals. So No Bad Cards is coming out, and I've been working on that for like 2 years, just timing, because everything I do is, I don't want it to be expensive and like really time consuming. And the podcast is great, but I'm missing like a connective element. And so if people want to join, that's a way of doing it. That's
You've got
really
your first subscriber.
easy.
So
thank you. Thank you.
We'll sign up immediately.
Yeah, and it will be. It's forever from now. But I do. My new book is getting announced in about a week. I'm writing a book,
which you mentioned earlier. Yes, tell us if you've got time.
Yeah, no, it's going to be published in 2026, forever from now. With Running Press, and it is a book called Tarot as Medicine, and a deck is coming along with it too.
You're an artist, I know. So have you?
I am an artist, but I'm not doing this. I'm working with the brilliant Chelsea Granger, who also did, if you do not have the Dirt Gems Oracle deck, run. It's like one of the strongest, clearest Oracle decks I've ever used. But Chelsea and I have been friends for many years. She's incredible. And she actually did an old iteration of art for my podcast, and it just magically worked together that like she was willing to do this project with me. So she's doing the art and I'm doing the writing and the descriptions and stuff. And so, yeah.
That's so exciting. You must be really thrilled. How did it come about?
I got approached by an agent who a couple of my friends in this field work with. It was a huge honor to be approached by this person. She liked the idea for Tarot as Medicine. I wrote it. We shopped it around. We had such a good connection with one publisher that they actually just made an offer and we accepted it. It never even went to, it was great.
So it's written, but you have to
Getting written. It's getting written. Yeah. Yeah. It's hell. It's hell. It's hell. It's a nightmare. But that's okay. That's okay. That's okay.
Writing is, I mean, Esther and I were laughing yesterday because we recorded a sketch, one of our comedy sketches. And I was like, I'm going to write the comedy sketch. I'd had weeks. I'm going to write the comedy sketch. And we were recording at 11 a.m. And at 10 a.m, I sat down and went, shit, I need to write.
I need to like write.
And I was like,
this.
but that's okay for a sketch that's 2 minutes long. If I was asked to write a book or I don't know an entire television series or anything, I'd be like, guys, I will get it written, but I will be doing it the night before, and so
yeah, it's hard. One, because I have been sharing my work publicly for now 7-8 years, and I'm like, what else could I say? So I'm in my head about that, and I'm like, Lindsay, just do, like, I'm writing, but I have to get the shitty first draft out, as Anne Lamott says. But it is also like, oh, you want it to be fresh, you want it to be new, and I'm like, how much history do I go into? How much do I not? So I'm like in my head about all that. Eventually, it'll be written. And
well, I mean, even if you've said things before to some people, that exactly, and to have it all in one tome will be amazing.
Thank you.
with the cards. Yeah.
And if people want to work with you, how do they work with you?
So if they'd like to work with me, they can go to tarotforthewildsoul.com. And on Tarot for the Wild Soul, you can learn about what courses I'm doing. I do little courses all through the wheel of the year and what's coming up next. I have, which is what I'm sure it's going to be great for people. I have a mailing list, which is, you're on Susie, that is very special. I love everyone on the mailing list, and everyone on the mailing list gets like first announcements, gets a nice discount to everything I do just by virtue of being on there. They can find me. That's how they can work with me, learn from me, do a reading with me. I also have a podcast called Tarot for the Wild Soul. And now I have a Substack called No Bad Cards, which is, I guess, a second newsletter, even though it's not really a replacement for the first. I have an Instagram. I'm never on it, though, so I can't really plug
I mean,
that.
you can't do everything, Lindsay. You're very busy
No, you
lady.
can't.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for coming on. We've had you for over an hour, but it has been so nice to talk to you and fascinating
and enriching.
This has been a delight. I can't. This is one of my favorite things I've ever done. Y'all are so lovely. Y'all are so lovely.
Oh, Lindsay, honestly,
I wish somehow we could do more. I'm like, is there more
Yes.
to do? Like, I don't know.
We should do a weekly segment. That should be it.
You could. I'd be happy to do a weekly segment.
You have been listening to Limited Time Only.
Thank you very much for listening to our episode about soul searching and our wonderful interview with the fabulous Lindsay Mack.
that was very exciting. It was very exciting to meet her, but also because she was in America.
We're like international podcasters.
It's really cool.
It's
But
really
she was
cool.
so lovely, and I knew she would be. And yeah, it was really interesting and lovely to speak to her. So I hope you're all feeling as kind of, I don't know, calm and inspired as Esther and I are.
Yes.
After listening to that.
Absolutely. We've got a Patreon live on the 27th of June.
Oh my goodness.
We better get preparing.
We better get preparing. And if you want to join us live on Zoom on the 27th of June, you need to go to patreon.com, search for Limited Time Only, and sign up to be a patron. And then you can register for the LTO live online.
Yes. God, you went very presentery then. It was magnificent.
Thank you. So we have an hour of basically LTO, but it's live. So we'll do a quiz, which you can take part in, and we'll have a chat, which you can take part in, and we'll do a sketch, which you can't take part in, apart from laughing.
I don't know, we could pass a script out, couldn't we?
could.
For some lols.
Oh my goodness.
Who wants to be Janet?
Oh, well, you know, that might appeal.
That might appear. We might get some thesps on board. I mean, Susie, you're in the Archers. You're a bloody living legend, so this could go down
If anyone
very
wants
well.
to be in a sketch with me, you have to subscribe to our Patreon.
You can only borrow her for a sketch. The show's still mine, all right, bitches?
Oh. Well, yeah, so stay calm, just like Esther, perfectly calm, and have a lovely 2 weeks. And we're going to be back with our next guest
Oh, yes. But have a lovely 2 weeks. Thank you for supporting us as always. And if you do like the episode, please do share it with a friend. Like, subscribe, all that jazz, because that just helps more people find us. And that's what we want. We want world domination, people. If we get to the top, we're taking you all with us because we need some good leaders. Come on. We're going to take over the world.
LTO team, go!